Very good. Good evening. Welcome. Welcome to. Hey, so tell me, everyone, did people read the book or the MEPOM text, or both? How many people read the book? How many people read MEPOM?
A little.
Okay. How did you find it?
Good.
Okay.
Different.
Very different. MEPOM, very difficult. So I was suggesting that maybe we go onward with the book and circle back at a later time, if that's okay. Okay.
Whatever you think is best.
In order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood, from my heart I take refuge in the three jewels. In order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood, from my heart I take refuge in the three jewels. In order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood, from my heart I take refuge in the three jewels. Whatever the virtues of the many fields of knowledge, all are steps on the path of omniscience. May these arise in the clear mirror of intellect. Oh, Manjushri, please accomplish this. Okay, so this is our last session for this year. And then we'll start up again early in January 2nd. I think we left off on page 388 of the book. Anybody confirm or deny? It's we're in the Madhyamaka school. We're in a section called How Nagarjuna Delineated the Profound Madhyamaka View. Chapter 14. And it's just before the section called How the Commentaries on Nagarjuna's Works Arose. It's like 2 pages before that. And we ended with among these, the Fearless, which was the auto commentary on the root verses attributed to Nagarjuna. The commentary by Buddhapalita, the Lamp of Wisdom, and the Lamp of Wisdom is by Bhaviveka, or Bhaviveka, and the Clear Words by Chandrakirti were translated in Tibetan, thus are found in the Tibetan Tinger, a collection of Shastras. The Fearless by Nagarjuna, I've never heard of before that he had an auto commentary. I've never seen anybody translate it. So it's really odd that isn't that right that he's talking about the Fearless as an auto commentary, right?
I'm not sure I'm on the same page as you. I see a sentence that says, among these, the fearless, the commentary by Buddhapalita, the lamp of wisdom, and the clear words. Are those 4 different things, or is
They are.
okay?
At the second sentence of the paragraph, it says the fearless understood as an auto commentary.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry. I was on the next page in my book. Yes. Right.
Yeah, the fearless auto, understood as an auto commentary. So if you look in the back, there's an index, and there's also a glossary, and in between the two, which shall never meet, there's a bibliography of works cited, starting with canonical scripture from the Conjure, attributed to the Buddha. And then there's a section called Canonical Buddhist Treatises from the Tenjur, attributed to the Indian masters, and it's alphabetical. So go into Nagarjuna. We have a lot of texts sorted alphabetically by their English translations. And I don't see the fearless in this list. Sorry to dwell on this. It's just really fascinating that there's a commentary attributed to him. It doesn't make sense that if they say they were all translated and are found in the Tenjur, why they didn't put it in the bibliography. Anyway. Okay, so in his treatises, such as The Root Verses on the Middle Way, Nagarjuna, emphatically refutes the intrinsic existence of all phenomena. He was emphatic about this. He really got worked up. What is this inherent establishment that is refuted? What is he refuting? We went through this in a course on Nagarjuna. The 15th of 27 chapters in the root verses says, it is not correct that intrinsic nature arises from causes and conditions. An intrinsic nature that arose from causes and conditions would be a product. And by definition, the intrinsic nature is not a product. It's not something that's produced. And we went through this when we went through the Nagarjuna course, but the idea is that he's reading the term svabhava from the Abhidharma as being the essence of dharmas, what makes them what they are. And if they're an essence, then they're not produced. And revealing a fatal flaw in the Abhidharma system, which says that all compounded phenomena are produced, are impermanent because they're produced. And at the same time, they're saying, well, compounded phenomena are real, and real phenomena have an intrinsic essence by definition. So if they're real, they have intrinsic essence, and intrinsic essence is not produced. So we have a non sequitur, a contradictory philosophical model in the Abhidharma. If you drag it out in that way, this is indicating that arising from causes and conditions and existing intrinsically are mutually exclusive, and if one asserts that intrinsic nature arises from those causes and conditions, it would have as a product a fabricated nature. In brief, that which is established independently without relying on imputation by thought is asserted to be intrinsic establishment or establishment from its own side, which is this odd phrase that's used to describe intrinsically existent phenomena. They exist or are established from their own side, meaning nobody else established them or produced them. They did it themselves. This is the object of negation for phenomena. Phenomena lack such an intrinsic nature. To hold that they do constitutes the view of permanence. To hold that intrinsically real things that once existed before are now no more constitutes the view of annihilation. Therefore it is said that in the Madhyamaka system one does not abide in the view of either existence or non-existence. The emptiness that is a lack of intrinsic nature is referred to with the terms non-abiding and non-observation in the 60 stanzas on reasoning. So emptiness is non-abiding and it's not observable. And in the Precious Garland as well, 2 texts of the 6 core texts on reasoning by Nagarjuna. The great beings who abide in non-abiding or non-observation. So the emptiness that is a lack of intrinsic nature is referred to with the terms non-abiding and non-observation. And then the authors of this text say that there are great beings that abide in those, which is a little bit odd, isn't it? The emptiness that is a lack of intrinsic nature is called non-abiding. So emptiness without intrinsic nature, non-abiding, call it non-abiding. And then there's great beings who abide in it, are said to have crossed the ocean of existence without being influenced by the great poisons that are the afflictions. The questions of the Naga king Anavatapta says, whoever understands emptiness is vigilant, meaning they possess vigilance, sheshan, samprajanya, that quality of introspection, introspective diligence, vigilance. This means that whoever understands the emptiness that is the lack of intrinsic nature will be already endowed with vigilance. You can't understand emptiness without having cultivated samprajanya or sheshan, which is knowing, the knowing quality in shamatha that accompanies the mindfulness quality in shamatha. So shamatha has these two main features, really three, but everybody focuses on two: mindfulness and knowing what's going on, or awareness, sometimes translated, but often introspection and vigilance. That emptiness is the ultimate mode of being of phenomena. Regarding its nature, the 18th chapter of Nagarjuna's text says, not known from what is other. So that which is not known from what is other than it. Peaceful, not proliferated through elaboration, without conceptions, without different meanings. That is the nature of reality. So reality is not known from what is other than reality, which is sort of an interesting thing to say. Implies that some things are known by what is other than it. Like sometimes we define things or explain things by not being like something else. Peaceful, at peace, meaning there's no change, there's no movement, there's, well, not change, really more peaceful means there's no struggle. So that would be a noun, that would, or a noun, that would be an adjective that would normally be applied to a living being, a living being that's peaceful. Whereas all the other are like adjectives of a phenomena, not proliferated through elaboration. So the nature of reality is not describable, not doesn't come about through complexity, conceptual complexity, elaboration, without conceptions. It's beyond conception, and without different meanings. This is the nature of reality. If it's explained from the perspective of its synonyms, this verse says that there are 5 qualities of emptiness. Emptiness has qualities. Emptiness possesses qualities. Fire is hot and illuminating, and emptiness is empty and not known from what is other. Peace, free from elaboration, object without conceptions, and not different. Thus it is saying that in the final analysis, the very fact that phenomena are dependently arisen proves that they do not intrinsically exist. Emptiness must be understood as the meaning of dependent arising. For example, in the 24th chapter, Nagarjuna undermines the proponents of true existence among the Buddhist schools who say that the Madhyamaka proponents of emptiness deprecate, undercut such things as the 4 truths and the 3 jewels, which would be a heinous crime for a Buddhist to do and would be tantamount to cardinal sin and cause for immediate execution and repulsion from the order. He says that the proponents of true existence do not understand the purposes of teaching emptiness, the nature of emptiness, and the meaning of emptiness, do not understand well the distinction between conventional truth and ultimate truth. The purpose of teaching emptiness is to completely pacify all elaborations of the conception of true existence, the delusion that is the root of desire, and so forth. The nature of emptiness must be taken to be that which is endowed with the five qualities as set forth in that passage from the root verses cited above, not known from what is other. The meaning of emptiness is said to be the meaning of dependent arising. Any phenomena that arises in dependence on another phenomena is not inherently the same as or different from the phenomena on which it depends. Therefore, it is free of the two extremes of permanence and annihilation. The mode of being of things is said to abide as just the dependent arising of mere conditionality. Setting forth such an emptiness as the meaning of dependent arising, the root verses says, that which dependently arises is explained to be emptiness. It is dependently designated. Just that is the middle path. Usually translators say, that which dependently arises is understood to be emptiness. There are no phenomena, on the next page, that are not dependently arisen. Therefore, there are no phenomena that are not empty. These statements are a great summary of the central message of the text. They are of crucial importance. Thus, the meaning of the emptiness of intrinsic existence to phenomena is the meaning of dependent arising, seeing that the Buddha was a valid teacher who set forth the reality of dependent arising in that way. He was therefore praised and extolled in the expressions of worship found in the root verses, the 60 stanzas, the refutation of objections, and such works as praise of the inconceivable, which is Nagarjuna's praise to the Dharmadhatu. How the commentaries in Nagarjuna's works. His primary disciple was Aryadeva. He composed reasonings for destroying error, the measure of what is at hand, and its commentary, destruction of errors about Madhyamaka, and the parts of the constituents, all of which are not translated into English. According to what appears in the Tanjira, he also composed a number of miscellaneous works, such as the Compendium on the Essence of Wisdom, which is translated. It's very short. However, his primary Madhyamaka work is his famous treatise in 16 chapters called The 400 Verses, presumably 16 chapters comprising 400 verses. In that work, he comments extensively on Nagarjuna's propositions, clearly and extensively refuting the misconceptions of others about the truths in Nagarjuna's root verses and delineating the yogic practice for properly meditating on the nature of the two truths. He actually provides a methodology which Nagarjuna only does in his Precious Garland. In accordance with the statement from root verses, without relying on the conventional, one cannot realize the ultimate. The first 8 chapters of the 400 verses set forth the yogic practice of relying on conventional truths as a method for realizing the ultimate truth. This is a famous concept in this tradition, is that we start with the conventional truth in order to identify the ultimate truth. We don't go the other way around. We analyze the conventional truth and find that conventional truth cannot withstand analysis and it falls apart, and thereby we discover ultimate truth. So you discover ultimate truth by process of elimination of conventional truth, not by any other means. And the next 8 chapters delineate the yogic practice for meditating on the ultimate truth. When this text is read in conjunction with the root verses, each text enable one to clarify the meaning of the other. Aryadeva was held by subsequent great Madhyamakas, such as Buddhapalita. I guess Madhyamaka is a plural noun. That's interesting. Such as Buddhapalita, Shura, Bhaviveka, Chandrakirti, and Shantarakshita to be a valid source in the way that Nagarjuna is. Those two are known as the original progenitors of Madhyamaka and are sometimes called the model Nagarjunas. Madhyamakas, they're the ideal Madhyamakas. Called them, they're also the early scholars of Tibet called them the noble father and son, and the Madhyamaka of the original texts. After Aryadeva, Buddhapalita composed a summary on root verses of the middle way, referred to simply as the Buddhapalita. His text was named me, and in it he clarifies the meaning of the reasonings explained in the root verses, primarily using the consequences, prasanga, thus the name prasangika. And having commented on the thought of Nagarjuna Aryadeva, he does not supply any autonomous or swatantra reasons. He's known to have composed other treatises, but they were not translated in Tibetan. After that, Bhaviveka composed his commentary on the root verses called the Lamp of Wisdom, and he found fault with each of the consequences and the refutation of production from the four extremes in Buddhapalita's commentary. So one of the main frameworks is refuting uh, production from the four extremes, the four uh, possibilities of self, other, both, and neither. And he doesn't like the way Buddhapalita did it, and he refuted them extensively, explaining many reasons why it's necessary to state autonomous reasons, swatantra. Even in the Madhyamaka system, it founded the Swatantrika sub-school. In his independent works, The Essence of the Middle Way, and its auto commentary, The Blaze of Reasoning, he sets forth many features of Buddhist and non-Buddhist and Buddhist schools of tenets. He goes through the tenet systems, that one of the earliest texts to do that, or probably the earliest, because essential points of the Madhyamaka view, meditation, and practice appear extensively there. Atisha is known to have explained the blaze of reasoning many times in India and Tibet. So even they're saying even Atisha explained it, meaning that the reason they're saying this is that he was held to be a prasangika, and for him to propound or expound upon a Swatantrika text would be an unusual thing, but he did that anyway because it goes through all the tenet systems in a very helpful way. Atisha himself translated both the essence of the middle way and its commentary into Tibetan together with his direct disciple, Nongso Tsogyam Gyalwa. After they came Chandrakirti's commentary, The Clear Words. Here he says, so Chandrakirti is famous for two main texts, The Clear Words, Prasanapada is a commentary on the root verse of the middle way, and then the introduction to the middle way, the Madhyamaka Avatar is the main, most famous introduction to Madhyamaka, and is the root text of that topic in the Shedra curriculum, one of 5 books forming that curriculum. Here he says, if one is a Madhyamaka, it is not suitable to use autonomous inferences because one does not accept any other position. So inferences start with a subject and a proposition about that subject and a supporting reasoning. And there's no such thing as a subject, so how can you have a proper syllogism in a system that has no subjects? That's the whole idea. He continues, when the master Nagarjuna composed his commentary on refutation of objections, which was his own text, so an auto commentary, he didn't use syllogisms, so nobody should. In this way, he rejects the false that Bhaviveka expressed about Buddhapalita, having made an extensive and distinctive refutation of the position that accepts autonomous reasons. He thereby, in doing that, founded the Prasangika school of sub-school of Madhyamaka. He showed that Buddhapalita did not accept autonomous reasons and set forth many proofs that what is autonomous is not suitable for a Madhyamaka. Having provided many refutations of autonomous syllogisms and of own character or own nature, swalakshana, which is very similar to swabhava, but has the nuance of that which is perceivable, as opposed to that which is a thing, which is swabhava, in his own system. He established a way of commenting on the intention of the root verses that is unshared with Swatantrika. He was stingy, he didn't share that with them, meaning that it was unique and not similar to their works. The most famous works composed by this master are his commentary on the root verses, the clear words, his commentary on the 60 stanzas of reasoning by Nagarjuna, his commentary on the 7 stanzas on emptiness by Nagarjuna, his extensive commentary on the 400 verses based on Aryadeva's text, and his independent work Entering the Middle Way, and its auto-commentary. Jnana Garba, another gentleman, adding to the long list of gentlemen who are obsessed with Madhyamaka, composed the Swatantrika text, so he was one of them, distinguishing the two truths in his commentary. He and Bhaviveka belong to a system that accepts external objects conventionally and does not accept the foundation consciousness and reflexive awareness. Shantarakshita accomplished the Madhyamaka text, ornamented the middle way, composed it. Ornamented the middle way in its commentary, and was the first to introduce the Yogacara Madhyamaka synthesis, which holds that external objects do not exist conventionally. Reflexive awareness does, and consciousness is not truly established. So in this book, the word Yogacara means Chittamatra, which means consciousness is truly established. So by putting that together, Yogacara and Madhyamaka, and mixing them together, the externally existent phenomena get eliminated by that chemical reaction. However, that chemical reaction also affirms the existence of self-awareness or reflexive awareness, which Madhyamakas are severely allergic to. They get really upset if you talk about reflexive awareness. And they also do not view conventional phenomena to exist conventionally, which is a Swatantrika creation. So he sort of blended these three things together. And he was famous for that, and the Nyingma tradition remains faithful to his presentation to this day, as elaborated by his descendants, Rongzom, Longchenpa, and Mipam. Let's see, Kamalashila, the main student of Shantarakshita, composed the Illumination of the Middle Way, which is I believe, a commentary on the Shantarakshita's ornament, and the three texts with the title Stages of Meditation. Famous for that. How to meditate in illumination in the middle way. He clearly distinguishes what is unique to the system of the founders of Madhyamaka and Chittamatra. In Tibet, distinguishing the two truths by Jnana Garba, ornament in the middle way by Shantarakshita, and illumination of the middle way by Kamalashila are known as the three texts of the Eastern Swatantrika. So these three guys and their texts are known as the Eastern Swatantrikas. So presumably they were from Eastern India. And East Coast, very liberal guys. Let's see. The works of Hari Baudra, Buddhajnana, and Abhayakara follow the system of Yogacara Swatantrika and delineating the view that system of Shantarakshita. Well, prior to Shantarakshita and Kamalashila, there were a few, such as Arya Vimuktasena, who asserted a Madhyamaka system in which external objects do not exist. That's a blend with the Yogacara and Chittamatra. However, it's well known that the person who widely introduced the tradition of Madhyamaka tenets, in which external objects do not exist, was Shantarakshita, who had that Yogacara Madhyamaka blend. Shantideva, the famous author of the Bodhicharvatara, composed many excellent works that commented on the intention of Nagarjuna as prasangika, such as Entering the Bodhisattva Way and the Compendium of Practice. Those two are the texts of his that survive. Prajnaparamati composed the commentary on Entering the Bodhisattva Way. Atisha composed the Entry to the Two Truths, Prasangika text, Instructions on the Middle Way, and Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment. Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment is a treatise that summarizes the essential points of the complete teachings of the Buddha, and it does so in a way of practicing. They didn't say that. I'm surprised that his whole the uniqueness of this text is that it summarizes all the essential steps on the path to enlightenment as presented by the Buddha. And so it becomes the first of zillions of Lamrim texts in the Tibetan tradition. The gradual, Lamrim means the gradual path texts, such as the Jewel Ornament by Gampopa, The Words of My Perfect Teacher by Pacho Rinpoche, and the Great Stages of the Path by Tsongkhapa, and many, many others. The way that the view is delineated in the works of such scholars as Shura and Nagasena belongs to the Prasangika Madhyamaka system. Thus, the masters who commented upon the intention behind Nagarjuna's texts that propound non-entityness as belonging to either the Prasangika Madhyamaka or Svatantrika Madhyamaka system were given the name Partisa Madhyamaka by early Tibetan scholars. So they make this division between those Madhyamakans who came before the split between Bhaviveka and Buddhapalita, meaning Nagarjuna Aryadeva, and everyone else is a partisan belonging to one party or another, the Democrats or the Republicans. The Prasangika are definitely Republicans, and the Svatantrikas, Yogacharas, Svatantrikas, Yogacara Madhyamakas are all Democrats, by the way, in case you were wondering. Definition, divisions of Madhyamaka. The school is defined as a Buddhist philosophical school whose fundamental tenet is that all phenomena lack true existence. As was already explained above, Madhyamaka and proponent of no entityness, Niswabhavavada, are synonyms because they accept the middle free from the two extremes of permanence and annihilation that are called Madhyamaka. Maybe they are called Madhyamaka, Middleists, and because they propound that phenomena lack truly existent entityness, they are called proponents of no entityness. Also because they avoid the two extremes of existence and non-existence, it is middle, Madhya, in Sanskrit, and due to the fact that they express the middle, treatises on the middle, tenets about the middle, persons who propound tenets about the middle are called Madhyamika. Madhyamikas. At the point of explaining the etymology of the term Madhyamaka, Bhavaviveka's Blaze of Reason says it is Madhyama because it is similar to Madhya, middle, in that it avoids the two extremes. Madhyama means being in the middle. Ma is a tadita suffix. There's different types of suffixes in Sanskrit. Sanskrit's a highly inflected language that has like all these different categories of types of particles and suffixes and prefixes. And this one's called a tadhita. I think there's 3 types of suffixes. That means the original word itself. In other words, ma means madhyam, madhya. Because it teaches and proclaims the middle path, ka is added. Based on the verbal root, ka, the word Madhyamaka refers to Nagarjuna's verses on the middle way, or something like that. I mean, something that bears the name Madhyamika. Or again, cause added as a nominal suffix referring to Madhyamaka, that is Madhyamaka philosophy, regarding the two extremes of permanence annihilation, that all phenomena are ultimately established, is the extreme of existence. Thinking that things exist is the extreme of existence, and thinking that they do not exist, even conventionally, is the extreme of annihilation. Thus, the root verse says, existence is conceiving of permanence, non-existence is the view of annihilation, therefore the wise should not abide in either place. Extreme of existence, extreme of permanence, extreme of superimposition are synonymous. Superimposition, thinking that there's more there than there really is, something that we often do. Extreme of non-existence, extreme of annihilation, and extreme of denial are synonyms. We deny that something is the way it is. We undercut it, deprecate it. Therefore, an extreme is a place that one falls into. In the world, a cliff is an example of an extreme, and falling off a cliff is called falling into an extreme. I would argue that if a cliff is an extreme and you fall off it, then you leave the extreme. And so therefore, the extreme is really the space below the cliff. But we quibble over non-existent phenomena. Furthermore, all Buddhist schools from Vaibhashika to Chittamatra assert that things have a true nature. Therefore, although they do not speak of things being permanent, when pushed by logical reasoning, they do become those who view things as permanent. That's the key thing. When pushed by logical reasoning, when you logically analyze what they say, it comes out that they assert permanence. If one asserts that something that truly existed at a previous time is destroyed in the next moment, although one does not accept the annihilation of its continuum, it really is a view of annihilation. Whenever one asserts that things have a true nature, one cannot avoid falling into the extreme views of permanence annihilation. As discussed above, Madhyamaka asserts that being dependently arisen means being empty of true existence, and that being empty of true existence means being dependently arisen. However, this does not mean that phenomena are non-things that lack the ability to perform a function. Therefore, Madhyamaka does not need two separate reasons to refute the two extremes, and all presentations of such things as actions and effects are tenable for that very basis where nature of true existence is refuted. Thus both extremes of permanence and annihilation are refuted just by the reason that they are dependently arisen. If Madhyamaka is divided in terms of how it presents the conventional, there are two. Madhyamaka that asserts external objects, and Madhyamaka that does not assert external objects. The first includes Bhaviveka, Chandrakirti, and their followers, so both Svatantrika and Prasangika assert external objects. They don't assert that they exist intrinsically, but they assert that they exist conventionally. And the second, those who do not assert external objects include scholars such as Shantarakshita and Kamalashila, and presumably Jnanagarbha, the three Easterners. The school can also be divided from the perspective of how to produce the mind, in the mind, the view that ascertains the ultimate emptiness. Svatantrika Madhyamaka and Prasangika Madhyamaka. Those are divisions of Madhyamaka that have a different way of producing in the mind the view that ascertains the ultimate emptiness. They have a different technique for producing that understanding or experience. Those two are also called respectively Madhyamaka that propounds intrinsic existence, the Svatantrika, and Madhyamaka that propounds the lack of intrinsic existence, it's sort of contradictory to have a Madhyamaka that propounds intrinsic existence, doesn't it? Based on some works by scholars from India, some Tibetan Scholars refer to Swatantrika, Madhyamaka, Prasanga, Madhyamaka with the terms respectively Madhyamaka establishing illusion with reasoning and thoroughly non-abiding Madhyamaka. So the Prasangas are non-abiding. It's just like you can't pin them down anywhere and everywhere. And then the Swatantrikas are called, they establish illusion with reasoning, meaning that they establish that all phenomena are illusion-like, are like illusions, which to me is very different from holding the view that, as stated above, um, Madhyamaka that propounds intrinsic existence. That's very different than establishing illusion with reasoning. But this book is written by you know who, turning to the difference between Prasanga and Swatantrika Madhyamaka in the context of the basis, meaning what are the objects of reality, of a perceiver in a reality situation. The Madhyamaka followers of Nagarjuna are in agreement that there is not even a subtle particle that is truly established in persons or phenomena, and that conventionally all topics can be posited without even one of them becoming confused. That's such a funny phrase, isn't it? And that conventionally all topics can be posited without even one of them becoming confused. I think what they mean by that weird statement is that because conventionally phenomena have no intrinsic existence, um, they can be talked about without one becoming at all confused about them. Something like that. They agree in extensively refuting the two extremes of non-existence, in which nothing exists even conventionally, and the extreme of existence, in which things or substance are ultimately or truly established. And having done so, they present dependent arising, which is like an illusion and a dream. Thus, in general, it is asserted that there is no difference in the view for Prasanga Madhyamaka and Swatantrika Madhyamaka. However, as will be explained below, Bhava Vivek in the section refuting Chittamatra in his Lamp of Wisdom commentary on the root verses says that to view the imaginary names and terms that designate and the phenomena they designate as not established by way of their own character is a deprecation. Oh, can you believe that? He views that's undercutting that's saying things are non-existent. It's a little bit extreme. It gets a little carried away, maybe a little emotional. Specifically, the Mahasiddha Maitripada, 10 verses on reality says so. Interestingly, they're quoting a Mahasiddha, who's one of the progenitors of the Kagyu tradition, of the Mahamudra tradition. Sort of cool. For those who wish to understand reality, there is neither aspectarian nor non-spectarian. So the aspectarians are, the true and false aspectarians. This is another way of referring to the true and false aspectarians of the Chittamacha. Even Madhyamaka that is not adorned with the Guru's speech is only mediocre. That's an interesting phrase. I mean, he's clearly a Tantrika. And so the Guru's presentation is important. But what a cool phrase. The commentary on this verse by the Pandita Sahajavajra says the exalted Shantaraksha and so forth are asserted to be aspectarian Madhyamaka. Aspectarian in that they hold, that would be saying that if you remember, Shantaraksha views all conventional phenomena as being like an illusion. But the way that's construed here is that they are established as illusion by reasoning. They're established by reasoning to be illusory. And so therefore he's an aspectarian. He believes that the aspects are illusory, but they're really there. Therefore, even Madhyamaka that is not adorned with the Guru's speech is only mediocre. Um, because it says that middling Madhyamaka refers to the system of Shantarakshita. If it is therefore calling those who assert the Prasanga system to be great Madhyamaka, then it is clear that there is a difference in view between these two. Interestingly, for some 700 or 800 years, Mahamudra was considered to be completely a Prasangika Madhyamaka tradition. It's only in the last few hundred years that Mahamudra has blended with a type of Madhyamaka called Zhendong. I have to say that with a hushed voice because you don't want the authors of this book to hear you say that. They get very upset if you say Zhendong because they're not Zhendongbas. Let's see. For example, something be established by its own entity or its own nature, which is asserted as the object of negation of the reasoning that analyzes the ultimate prasanga, is asserted to conventionally exist by Svatantrakas. This will be discussed. This fallacy, this heinous crime, will be discussed in detail below. In such systems as Svatantraka, it is asserted that when seeking the designated objects, if it is not found, then it is not possible to posit the existence of that phenomena. For example, when searching for a designated object, such as the person, it is asserted that among the aggregates that are its basis of designation, the mental consciousness is found, and therefore that is posited as the referent of the person. Sorry, let me read that again. For example, when searching for a designated object such as a person, it is asserted that among the aggregates that are its basis of designation, so we designate the idea of there being a person upon the basis of designation of the five aggregates as the basis of designation. The mental consciousness is focused on as being the prime suspect for where the person lives. The mental consciousness is found, and therefore that is posited as the referent of the word person, meaning that the word person refers to the mental consciousness from among the five aggregates in the Prasanga system. However, when searching for the designated object, it is asserted that no phenomena whatsoever is found. So they're saying that some other systems, such as Svatantraka, and we saw that in Chittamatra, focus on the mental continuum as being the nexus for what makes delusion, for what delusion thinks is a self, and thereby accumulate karma, and thereby explains the retention and transmission of karma from one moment to the next and one lifetime to the next. And the Prasangas say, no, you don't need that. They don't. It's too complicated. In the Prasanga system, however, when searching for the designated object, it is asserted that no phenomena whatsoever is found when searching for the designated object of the person. One is not searching to simply determine whether the person exists. One is searching to determine how that person is established, because of course the person doesn't exist. Not being satisfied that it is a mere projection by the mind. A reasoning consciousness that searches in that way does not find the aggregates individually or collectively to be the person. So what they're doing here is, in a very abstruse and awkward way, they're presenting the meditation system for understanding the emptiness in the Madhyamaka tradition is by analyzing into by going analytically through the relationship between the idea of a self and the aggregates. What is the relationship between a self and the aggregates? What are the characteristics of a self? How do those compare to the characteristics of the aggregates? Is the self all of them? Is the self one of them? The mental consciousness, and so forth. Let's say a reasoning consciousness that searches in that way does not find the aggregates. There's no aggregates anyway. individually or collectively, to be the person. And so certainly they can't be a person, either the mental consciousness or the body or any other of them, nor altogether. And it does not find the person anywhere else. You can't find a person separate from the aggregates. That would be absurd. that not finding is the that not finding is the meaning of the person being not intrinsically established. It does not mean that the person is utterly non-existent. It's a little bit hard to defend that claim, but okay, they're splitting hairs, which not many of us have here, but just checking if you're listening at all. Not finding is the key activity of Madhyamaka meditation. Sort of like non-meditation and Mahamudra is the big thing, right? In this system, it's not finding. Each system has its own little cool technique, right? That not finding is the meaning of the person not being intrinsically established. It does not mean that the person is utterly non-existent. You just can't find them. The important point is that if something exists intrinsically, it must be found when searched for in that way. But it is mere existence. But its mere existence does not need to be found. The key word there is mere, which is a mere little word. But to the Prasanga's mere has a world of meaning. It means that it's not intrinsically existence, it's merely conventionally appearing. Both Prasanga and Svatantra agree in asserting that the person cannot withstand analysis by reasoning. Yeah, people just break down under analysis. However, they do not agree on the point at which it can or cannot withstand analysis by reasoning, nor do they agree on the threshold for ultimate analysis. In Prasangika, not being satisfied by mere conventional designations such as I accumulated this karma. See, that's where it comes down to is who's accumulating karma and how are they accumulating it? Where are they storing it? Like in their pockets or something, where do they keep it? And I experienced this effect. One searches to determine where that designated object, the person who accumulated an experience, is established in the aggregates individually, collectively, or as something else. Now, we all think and operate every moment of our existence as if there is some accumulator and experiencer of karma. And we have very strong clinging and attachment to the sense that accumulator and experiencer has a very clear relationship with our aggregates. So this is meant to work on that, loosen it up a little bit. So one searches to determine where that feeling is, where that designated object is established in the aggregates individually, collectively, or as something else. It is at this point that it becomes ultimate analysis. Having searched in that way, if something is found in what is being analyzed, then it is asserted that it can bear analysis by reasoning. That's not ultimate analysis. So Tantrikas assert that such reasoning is conventional, valid knowledge, that it is not reasoning that analyzes the ultimate. If something is found when sought by it, it is not established as something that can withstand analysis by reasoning. I don't know if I agree with that. Assert that such reasoning is conventional valid knowledge, that it is not reasoning that's them. Well, for them, the threshold of ultimate analysis is analyzing whether phenomena are established from the side of the object's own mode of being without being posited through the power of appearing to a non-defective awareness. Some complicated stuff going on here. So let's see. For them, Swatantrikas, the threshold of ultimate analysis is analyzing whether phenomena are established. The threshold, the doorway through which you must enter into the realm of the ultimate, into the realm of ultimate analysis, is to perform the analysis of whether phenomena are established from their own side, from their own mode of being without being posited through the power of their appearance to a non-defective awareness. So, um, just the fact that they appear to an enlightened awareness is what this is saying, without being posited through their appearing to a non-defective awareness. Let's see if they explain that a little bit, because it's a little bit of unusual way of phrasing this. When sought by that, if what is being analyzed is found, they assert that it can withstand analysis by reasoning. Thus, for any of the schools of tenets, when the mode of being of any phenomena is analyzed, the threshold for ultimate analysis is a crucial point. So in this system, the threshold is not finding. The actual threshold for analysis of reality in the Prasanga Madhyamaka is the point from which one begins to search for how this I or self in one's continuum is established. Not being satisfied that the I is something that is merely posited by the power of conventional designation, it must be satisfactory to use conventions like I am here, I see, I feel, I analyze. Yet when one is not satisfied with just those conventions, one searches and finds that the I is not the individual aggregates, such as the eye and ear, and it is not their collection, and that the I does not exist somewhere else. They assert that this is the way in which the I does not intrinsically exist. Svatantrika and those below them in the hierarchy of the tenet systems hold that an object that lacks such intrinsic existence is utterly non-existent. They assert that to conceive an object in this way is the view of annihilation. In contrast, Prasangika holds that the fact that things do not intrinsically exist is not enough for them to be non-existent. So they separate existence and the type of existence, intrinsic or non-intrinsic. And the fact that they conventionally exist is enough for them to be existent. So they say that to be existent, you have to be either ultimately existent or conventionally existent in the Prasanga system. And if you're just conventionally existent, that suffices to make you existent. Whereas in the other systems, they all want ultimate existence. They want the full thing. They assert that the two extremes are eliminated because of dependent arising, in which all phenomena lack intrinsic existence, yet all categories of phenomena are conventionally tenable. That is a unique feature of this system. Therefore, Sangha and Svatantrika differ in their identification of the object of negation. The object of negation being a code language for that which phenomena are empty of. And because of that, they differ on the threshold for analysis of suchness. If one does not ascertain this dividing line well, it is difficult to see the subtle differences between Svatantrika and Prasangika. Probably requires going over that difference like about 1,000,000 times to really get it. In brief, the primary factor that distinguishes Prasanga and Svatantrika is whether they break their eggs on the large side or the small side of the egg, is whether they accept that phenomena are established by way of their own nature. Those who they refute true existence and dependence on correct reasons, whose three modes are established from their own side, are called Svatantrika. Those who they refute, I think there might be a typo there. They need some proofreading.
There's
Brent,
a lot of them
can
in
you
there.
help us in it? Say, there's a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it
It
looks like
seems
it's
to be getting worse. We didn't seem to have that many early on. Maybe the editor got tired. Does that ever happen, Brent? But not to you, only to lesser editors. Those who primarily refute true existence with consequences are Prasangicas, the winners. Oh, where are we? Yeah. The Svatantrika Madhyamaka school of tennis, the founder of this tennis system, as we now know a zillion times over, is Bhava Viveka. He is said to have been born into the royal caste in Malaya in southern India in the 6th century. Does Malaya ring any bells for anybody? There's a chant in Mount Malaya, in the red field coca and the blood lake of Matramruja. How does it go? In the something of Mount Malaya, from the red field of the.
Blood Lake Coca from the charnel grounds of
But
Matramruja,
what
like
comes?
the
What
great
goes for that?
protector. What
Yeah.
comes before that? Oh goodness. Sorry, it's
Okay.
blanked
Well,
on me.
yeah. Likewise, we'll come back to it.
Yeah,
Bhaviveka comes before that. Bhaviveka from Mount Malaya. It is explained that he was known as Bhaviveka, and Bhavaviveka. His nickname was Bhavaviveka. This scholar composed the Lamp. We went through this. An extensive work commenting on the intention of the reverses from the Swatantra perspective, as well as his independent work, Yes in the Middle Way, and his autocomic Blaze of Reasoning, mentioned many times above. He is the founder of Swatantrika in general, which explains that all phenomena are established by way of their own character but not truly exist, and he is the founder of the Sautrantika Swatantrika Madhyamaka in particular, meaning that there's two branches of the Swatantrika Madhyamaka. There's the Sautrantika Swatantrika, who are into this presentation of the sutras as we saw in the Sautrantika system, using reasoning and so forth, and there's the Yogacara Madhyamaka. So we went through the general introduction to Madhyamaka, and now we're diving into one of the two branch systems, the partisan systems. And we're starting with the Democrats here. A unique feature of Bhaviveka's Madhyamaka treatise is that he saw that in the system of the Garjana, the view of reality, or the profound middle way, is to be delineated through the use of reasons in which the three modes, the famous three modes, are complete, that appear in the works of Dignaga. Based on this fact, he proved that in the context of delineating the view, one needs autonomous reasons in which the three modes are complete. In addition, when determining the limits of what is to be refuted and proved by reason in general, and the limits of what is refuted by reasonings that analyze the ultimate in particular, it is crucial to understand how negation is divided into implicative negation and non-implicative negation. Therefore, at many points in his own works, he emphasizes and explains these two types of negation, such as in the Blaze of Reasoning. Here, the negation is not. It's taken to be a non-implicative negation. It is not taken to be an implicative negation. One might ask how non-implicative negation and implicative negation are distinguished. In implicative negation, negating the nature of a thing implies a different nature of that thing. For example, the negation, he is not a Brahmin, conveys that he's not a Brahmin, but for example, he's got to be one of the other caste systems, a Shudra, inferior in austerities and learning, for example. A non-implicative negation simply refutes the nature of a thing. It does not convey a thing that is other than the object negated. For example, Brahmins do not drink beer. Brahmins do not drink beer. Simply refuting that. Silly little examples like this all the way back to the 5th century of India. Can you believe that? Brahmins do not drink beer. It's simply saying that. It is not saying they drink something else or they drink nothing. Therefore, here, this is simply making the refutation that the earth and so forth that are designated by the world are not the nature of the elements ultimately. That was quite a leap from beer. Maybe he was drinking too much beer when he wrote this, but he made a leap from drinking something else or nothing. This is simply making the refutation that the earth and so forth that are designated by the world are not the nature of the elements ultimately. It's a little bit of a weird segue.
Do they
It's
mean by world like people?
people, they mean it,
So
people,
they're talking about the consensus reality?
I think so. It is not proving that they are the nature of something else or that they are the nature of non-things. Also, Bhava Viveka says that someone might raise the qualm. Somebody who has a lot of qualms might raise one of their qualms that if one is able to prove the ultimate truth and dependence on reason with the three modes, why does it say in a sutra that the ultimate truth transcends the sphere of all forms of awareness? To dispel that contradiction, he responds that in the term ultimate truth, the consciousness based on which the ultimate is posited as the ultimate object is of two types: uncontaminated wisdom, which is free from elaborations, and mundane wisdom, which has elaborations. In general, in the Blaze of Reason, he sets forth three ways of positing the ultimate in the context of the term ultimate truth. This will be explained in the fourth volume. In Blaze of Reason, he also sets forth how Madhyama engages in refutation using the qualification ultimate in the context of arguing that the elements such as earth are not ultimately established. So going back to this odd phrase, let's see. At the bottom of 398, the beginning of this paragraph, Bhavaveka says that someone might object if one is able to prove the ultimate truth and dependence on a reason with the three modes, which is what Svatantras do, Svatantrikas do. Why does it say in the sutra that the ultimate truth transcends the sphere of all forms of awareness? If ultimate truth transcends all form of awareness, how can an understanding based on the three modes of reasoning understand ultimate truth? Because that's a form of awareness, right? That's the argument here, the objection. To dispel that apparent contradiction, Bhaviveka responds that in the term ultimate truth, the consciousness based on which the ultimate is posited. Already we're in a little bit deep water. As the ultimate object is of two types. The consciousness based on which the ultimate is posited as the ultimate object is of two types: uncontaminated wisdom, which is free from elaboration, mundane wisdom, which has elaboration. I think what they're talking about is that there's a shift in this system to understanding the two truths as being relation, the two truths as being derived based upon the enlightenment or not of the perceiver, and that there's no inherently um, ultimate or conventional objects. It all depends on whether the perceiver has defective or non-defective viewing. So there's two types of ultimate object: that which is perceived by uncontaminated wisdom, free from elaborations, and that which is perceived by mundane wisdom, which is elaborations. The first being the ultimate, the second being the conventional relative. So let's now come back down to the quote where he's talking about this qualification of the ultimate in the context of arguing that the elements, such as earth, so not the earth, but the earth element, are not ultimately established. In the statement, earth and so forth are not the natures of the elements, which is an interesting phrase because earth and so forth are the elements. In the statement, earth and so forth are not the natures of the elements ultimately. So they're saying that ultimately means that which exists ultimately. Elements are elements because they arise as themselves or give rise to something else. The basic building blocks of reality. Natures means the natures of the elements because they are the nature of the elements, such as earth. Are not is a term indicating negation. It means that they are not. What is it that are not? It refers that statement refers to earth and so forth are not the natures of the elements of ultimately. An odd quote, to be sure. To summarize, Bhakti Viveka argued that even the Madhyamaka's own system, it is correct to employ the three modes of autonomous syllogism, because otherwise you end up with absurd quotes like that one. In dependence on that, a new Madhyamaka tradition arose that disagreed with Bhakti Buddhapalita on many important points, commenting on the intention of Nagarjuna, God forbid. Later scholars would coin the term Svatantra Madhyamaka for this outrageous tradition. The Svatantrika school is defined as a sub-school of Madhyamaka philosophy that accepts that the three modes of reasons, the forward, the reverse, and the subject mode, proving that phenomena do not truly exist, are established from their own side. The three modes of reasons are established from their own side. Wow. So Tantra autonomous refers to the subject of a debate that is established as appearing commonly, or appearing pervasively to the unmistaken valid consciousnesses of the two parties in a debate through the power of the mode of subsistence of the object from the side of the basis of designation. What a convoluted sentence. Let's see. The Svatantrikas accept, as a philosophy that accepts that the three modes of reason is proven that phenomena do not truly exist, are established from their own side. Svatantra refers to the subject of a debate, the object that is established as appearing pervasively to those who have unmistaken valid cognition of presumably both parties in the debate have that type of valid cognition, and it appears to them through the power of the mode of subsistence of the object. So the object has an independent existence that appears to both of their unmistaken valid cognitions, and from the side of the basis of designation. They have they exist from their own side. They have a mode of subsistence from their own side being the basis of the designation of them as being X, Y, or Z, without being led merely by the assertions of the opponent. And so that the nature of phenomena can be analyzed and known independently of somebody leading you along the way. That ideally everybody will come up with the same conclusions. And that based on that subject and inference is generated that comprehends the thesis, having ascertained how the modes of that reasoning are established. Madhyamaka who accepts such viability is called a Svatantrika Madhyamaka. The Lamp of Wisdom says the 13th chapter of Nagarjuna's root verses was composed with the purpose of setting forth the way in which conditioned phenomena lack entityness in terms of another aspect through the power of answers to refutations and independent inferences. Autonomous, independent, and sovereign are synonyms. As Amara Simha's glossary, treasury of Amara says, autonomous, independent, sovereign are synonymous terms. Those terms, as well as established from its own side, intrinsically established and established by way of its own character, and also presumably substantially existent make the same points, i.e. they are also synonymous in the Swatantrika system. Non-defective consciousnesses are not mistaken about their object of engagement, appearing to exist by way of its own character conventionally. The reason that they are not mistaken in that way rests on the fact that forms and so forth appear to non-defective consciousnesses to be established by way of their own entity, and they assert that forms and so forth are in fact established by way of their own entity. Therefore, the reason that they assert autonomous syllogisms in their system rests on this assertion that establishment by way of the object's own entity exists conventionally. It's a pretty heavy charge there that they believe in substantially existent phenomena from their own side conventionally. There are two divisions, Sautrantika Swatantrikas and Yogacara Swatantrikas. And Yama, who does not accept reflexive awareness and who accepts that external objects are established by way of their own character, is called a Sautrantika Swatantrika Madhyamaka. A Madhyamaka who does not accept external objects and who accepts reflexive awareness, sort of the opposite of the other guy, is called a Yogacara Swatantrika Madhyamaka. Sautrantika Swatantrikas accept, in conformity with Sautrantika, that external objects are composites of minute particles. Yogacara Swatantrikas accept, in accordance with Yogacara, the lack of external objects conventionally. These two subschools of Swatantrika Madhyamaka are explained more fully in their respective sections below. Both types of Swatantrika Madhyamaka assert that true establishment, ultimate establishment, and real establishment do not exist in objects of knowledge, but assert that establishment by way of its own entity, establishment by way of its own character, and intrinsic establishment exists conventionally. Bhava Viveka's well, they keep adding conventionally, at least. Bhava Viveka's lamp says, regarding that, if you say here that which is the entity of imaginary natures that express form to the mind and that express form in words does not exist, then this is a deprecation of things, because it deprecates what is expressed to the mind and expressed in words. This is saying that when Chittamatra says that imaginary natures are not established by way of their own character, that imaginary nature refers to either expressions to the mind, that is thoughts, or expressions in words, that is names, which impute an entity, this is form, or a quality, the production of form. It's really a activity. If that is the case, because both thoughts and names are functioning things, it becomes a deprecation of things for Chittamatra to call them imaginary natures. Ooh, they take that very personally. This statement is the clearest source for the assertion by this master that things are established by way of their own character, conventionally. Interesting. Similarly, Chandrakirti explains in his auto commentary to Entering the Middle Way here, they say that given that production does not exist ultimately, it is indeed the case that production from self and other can be refuted. However, the nature of things such as form and feeling that are the objects of direct perception and inferences are questionably produced from other, are unquestionably produced by other. Chandrakirti is stating here the assertion of the opponent who, when refuting inherently established production, does not accept ultimately established production, but does accept production from other, which is conventional. This makes it clear that Swatantrika Madhyamaka accepts establishment by way of its own character. Furthermore, because they assert that when designated objects of phenomena are searched for, they are found from the side of their own basis of designation, they assert establishment from the object's own side. For example, Shantaraksha's Compendium of Principles says, being the basis of pride, the mind is called I. It exists conventionally. Its object does not exist ultimately. Its object being whatever it thinks about at any moment. The way that consciousness is described in Bhava Viveka's believes the reason is conventionally designated as the self. as conventionally designated as the self will be discussed below in the section on the tenets of the Sautrantika, Swatrantika, and Yamaka. Similar to that, Shantarakshita says that when one searches for the designated object of the person, because it is the basis of producing the pride that thinks, me or I am, the mind is conventionally called self. His auto commentary to the ornament in the middle way says, in cases when nothing is analyzed, we do not refute the pleasant nature of any experience, from the state of a foolish being to the state of omniscient wisdom. um, which is odd because we've read it through a couple of Galukpa texts on emptiness, and they assert the mere self to be inexistent, which is totally like what the Swachatrakas are doing, right? Let's see. This is saying that in a situation that is not analyzed by reasoning, ooh, that's a dangerous situation. Objects that are established by the experiences of everyone, from an ordinary being to someone with omniscient wisdom, are intrinsically established. Kamala Shila's illumination, the middle way, says that which abides is only the lack of entityness of all phenomena. Ultimately, always and intrinsically is the consummate nature, because it is established as always being free of superimposition. This is also proven by the fact that he adds the qualification ultimately to the lack of intrinsic existence. Therefore, although nothing is established from its own side without being posited by the power of appearing to a non-defective awareness, this does not contradict that there is establishment from the side of the object in this system in general. Thus they assert a combination of all phenomena being established from the side of the object and being posited by the power of appearing to awareness. Wow, those Swatantrikas. Furthermore, because Swatantrika does not identify which awareness posits everything as conventionally existent, phenomena must be posited as conventionally existent by the power of an awareness that is not undermined by valid means of knowledge. In that case, it must be a combination of the two. From the appearance side, phenomena such as form are established in a mode of subsistence that is merely posited by the power of appearing to a non-reflexive awareness. And two, from the emptiness side, they are empty of being established from the side of the object's own mode of subsistence that does not rely on being posited by an awareness. Let's see. Go back a couple of sentences. Furthermore, because Swatantrika does not identify which awareness posits everything as conventionally existent, phenomena must be posited as conventionally existent by the power of an awareness that is not undermined by valid means of knowledge. Okay. In that case, it must be a combination of the two. From the appearance side, phenomena such as form are established in a mode of subsistence that is merely posited by the power of appearing to a non-defective awareness. And from the emptiness side, they are empty of being established from the side of the object's own mind. And from the emptiness side, they are empty of being established from the side of the object's own mode of subsistence that does not rely on being posited by an awareness. That's a really clunky phrase that seems to mean something like, it seems too weird to conjure up an explanation. Any venturing? Okay. The word merely and the phrase merely, posited by the power of appearing to an awareness, eliminates an object being established by its own mode of subsistence, which is not posited by the power of an awareness. So the word merely in the phrase merely posited by the power of appearing to an awareness eliminates means that it is not an object being that is established by its own mode of subsistence, which is not posited by the power of an awareness, i.e. that which is not posited by the power of an awareness. It does not eliminate mere existence as a mode of existence. So they have three types of existence. They have ultimate, conventional, and mere. If these points are understood well, one is able to distinguish how the way that the two truths are posited by Svatantrika is more subtle than that of the proponents of true existence and is more coarse than that of Prasangika Madhyamaka. In this system, there are two objects of negation for reasonings that analyze the ultimate. The first takes the ultimate to be the reasoning consciousness that analyzes the ultimate in a specific subject, and then posits the subject itself existing in the face of that analysis to be the object of negation of the reasoning analyzing the ultimate. Let's see, there are two objects of negation for reasonings that analyze the object. The first takes the ultimate to be the reasoning consciousness that analyzes the ultimate in a specific subject, and then posits the subject itself existing in the face of that analysis to be the object of negation of the reasoning analyzing the ultimate. The second takes the ultimate to be an establishment, from the side of the object's unique mode of subsistence, which is not posited by the power of appearing to a non-defective awareness to be the object of negation of the reasoning analyzing the ultimate. Oh my God, that's so convoluted. The first of these is taken to exist from the perspective of reality being in the field of vision, the inferential reasoning consciousness, and the uncontaminated meditative equipoise that realize the emptiness of conventional phenomena. The two of them realize, I guess. This is called the object of negation in the face of reasoning. The unfindability of that subject as the conclusion of analyzing it with the reasoning consciousness that analyzes the ultimate is called reasoning emptiness in terms of that subject. Catchy name. Apart from the differences in subtlety of the object of negation, Prasanga and Svatantrika are similar in this. Thus the questions of Brahma Visheshachinti or something like that says, not to see is to see the truth. And the condensed Prajnaparamita says, not seeing form and not seeing feeling, not seeing discrimination and not seeing mind, not seeing consciousness, mind and mental consciousness. The Tathagata taught that this is seeing the Dharma. Sentient beings say, I see space. Analyze this in the way we see space. The Tathagata taught us to see phenomena in that way. Seeing cannot be explained with other examples. Wow. This whole section is sort of bizarre. Not seeing form and not seeing feeling, not seeing discrimination, not seeing mind, not seeing consciousness, mind and mental consciousness. Tathagata taught that this is seeing the Dharma, not seeing it, phenomena as being there is actually seeing Dharma. Sentient beings say, I see space. Analyze in the way we see space. How do we think we see space? They have a mental idea of space that they're looking at, right? The Tathagata taught us to see phenomena in that way. Seeing cannot be explained with other examples. Does that mean that seeing phenomena in that way, so we have to see as in the sense of understand that phenomena are appearing to us based on our projection? This passage is teaching that emptiness is a non-implicative negation. Space is simply the elimination of obstructive content. When it is seen or realized, if there was something visually obstructive to be seen, it would be suitable for it to appear. However, apart from a mere lack of obstructive contact, nothing would ever be seen. In the same way, if conventional phenomena existed ultimately, they would have to exist in the field of vision of the ultimate perceived by the meditative equipoise realizing the emptiness. However, because they are not seen in such a field of vision. In the case of space, what is seen as space and what is not seen as obstructive contact. That valid consciousness does not see an obstructive contact, it sees its mere absence. This is called seeing space. In the same way, the uncontaminated reasoning consciousness, a meditative equipoise, does not see any conventional phenomena in its field of vision. It sees its mere absence in its field of vision. Therefore, what is not seen is the basis of the attribute. All conventional phenomena and where it is not seen is in the field of vision of the ultimate. What is seen is the mere absence and the mere non-existence of that. These verses from the condensed Prajnaparamita are clearly referring to that. That whole statement of the Svatantrikas, I guess, regarding how the uncontaminated meditative equipoise eliminates conventional phenomena, the vision of emptiness. The mind that comprehends space sees an absence that is the mere lack of obstructive content, in the same way that wisdom sees a mere elimination or a mere non-existence of conventional phenomena in its field of vision. If conventional phenomena existed in that field of vision that realizes emptiness, they would have to be ultimately established. This is because if some conventional phenomena existed in the vision of emptiness, let's see, um, by those two reasoning consciousnesses, inferential and direct realization of emptiness. When those two reasoning consciousnesses would not be minds that realize that there's nothing to find in the conclusion of ultimate analysis, they would have to be minds that realize that something is found in the conclusion of analysis. In that case, because what is found is a conventional phenomena, the conventional phenomena world would withstand analysis by realizing the elements, would withstand analysis by reasoning and analyzes the ultimate. Therefore, it would be truly established, even if emptiness existed in the field of vision of the mode of being of emptiness itself. It would be truly established like the conventional phenomena that would be found. This whole section is a little convoluted, huh? Someone might object the reality of a sprout, for example, exists in the field of vision of a reasoning consciousness that analyzes the reality of the sprout. Therefore, it should be ultimately established. Oh, if it appears in the field of vision, then it should be ultimately established. If something is ultimately established, it must be established for a reasoning consciousness that analyzes the ultimate. However, if something is established for a reasoning consciousness that analyzes the ultimate, it does not have to be ultimately established. The reason for that is that the reasoning consciousness itself analyzes whether or not something is ultimately established. Thus, if something like a sprout were ultimately established, it would have to be ultimately established by a reasoning consciousness. Although the reality of the sprout is found by the reasoning consciousness, it is found in that way by analyzing whether the sprout already exists. It is not found by analyzing whether the reality of the sprout ultimately exists. Therefore, the reality of the sprout does not become ultimately established. Thus, although being established by reasoning consciousness that analyzes the ultimate exists, to be established is withstanding analysis by such a reasoning consciousness, not different from being truly established. Therefore, it does not even exist even conventionally. This object of negation on the face of reason is set forth clearly in such works. So, the explanation of the non-implicative negation. Okay. The object of negation in the face of reasoning set forth clearly in such works as the blaze of reason, illumination, the middle way. lays the reasoning. It says someone might say the ultimate is beyond all forms of intellect, but the negation of the entityness of phenomena is the object of language. Therefore, it is not the case that there is no such negation. Is it not the case? The ultimate is of two types. What is called mundane wisdom has elaborations here because it, the term, ultimately qualifies the thesis. There is no fault. The proponents of true existence would say that if the four elements do not ultimately exist for the Madhyamaka school, this contradicts their own assertion. It is undermined by direct perception, and it is undermined by what is known in the world. The passage above comes at the point of Bhavaviveka's responding to such an objection, saying that is this content, the statement, the four elements. Let's see, the passage above comes at the point of Bhavavika responding to such an objection, saying that in this context, the statement the four elements do not ultimately exist means that they do not exist in the face of the reasoning consciousness that analyzes the ultimate, because it refers to their not being established by that. The faults stated earlier do not apply. This is a very clear statement of how the object of negation for reasoning is identified. That was very clear, very clear. Don't you? Yeah. Well, after that level of levity, at least they have a good sense of humor, these authors. Why don't we stop there? On page 405 for the record, and just before they quote from the illumination of the middle way, and we'll begin again on January 2nd and finish up this text, which only
Uh,
has,
did you
yes,
want the
ma'am.
rest of that? So that Malaya
Oh,
uh,
yeah,
is from the four-armed Mahakala, and it is in fact the first line. It's Hum from the glorious Mount Malaya, from the red
there you
fields of
go.
Blood Lake Coca, etc., etc.
There you go. Thank
There
you.
was
And
nothing
Baba
earlier
Vega
because there
lived there.
was no further line above.
But I was looking for that phrase that you just said, from the glorious Mount
From
Malaya.
glorious Mount Malaya.
That's it, from glorious Mount Malaya. Oh, Emily is actually here. She's not allowed to say anything now. Show us your T-shirt so we can read it. You can breathe. We see that part. As long as you can breathe. Okay, as long as you can breathe. We only have a few more pages, 435, and we're on page 405. A mere 30 pages. Should we just keep going for a few minutes? Just kidding. Okay, so that means we have one more class to finish this up on the January 2nd, and then we can do January 9th and 17th. We do the path, and then we take a break for the retreat, which everybody here is going on except Emily because she lives far away. And let's see, look at the calendar. Um, and then we'll start the moonbeams after Shambhala Day. Losar is February 10th, right? So then let's begin on February 13th would be auspicious. It would be highly inauspicious to begin during Dun season. Let's see, when does Dun season start? Dun season starts, the 10th is Losar. The 9th is the neutral day. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. January 30th is the first day of Dun season. So we could skip the week of January 23rd and January 6th and February 3rd. 6th have 3 weeks off. Sounds like we should meet on the 30th, but we can figure these out. And then, um,
On the first day of Dun season.
yeah, we'll do them almost. And so we have 3 classes left. Finish this up and then do 2 on the path. What do people think about meeting on January 2nd? Should we skip that? or meet on January 2nd. Yeah. Okay, so let's meet then and go from there and see what happens. So we'll, let's dedicate the merit. By this merit may all attain omniscience, may defeat the enemy wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great east, may the lotus garden of the Rigdon's wisdom bloom, may the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. Um, may all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory. I was thinking about the section that we just went through on Svatandrika. It was extraordinarily complicated and convoluted. Like, I mean, the Chitta Mantra had like really difficult sections too. And this was very, very difficult to understand. What do you think, Kevin?
I just think it's poorly written.
Yeah,
The sentence structure is, you know, not worthy of a first year composition course.
it
It's
is. It's really convoluted
really
and
bad.
unclear.
It,
Yeah,
they should just make shorter sentences and forget all this run on stuff. Like too many clauses.
yeah.
I I always say there's
I
two types of writing. There's Faulkner and Hemingway, and so this is the Faulknerian style. And for understanding, you're better off with Hemingway,
totally.
or as Dilbert would say, it's short, stubby sentences. If anyone knows.
Yeah, yeah. Everything is so green.
Emily, how are you feeling?
All
Good.
right.
I actually
She
can.
looks
I
great.
can. I can talk now. But yeah, yeah. I'll probably have a baby. Not the next time we meet, but when we start with moonbeams, there'll be
So
a baby around.
what's
So
the date?
around January 20th, when you all are on retreat. So I'm sure I'll text photos to a bunch of people.
Yes.
So yeah.
That's great.
Well, hang in
Very
there
exciting.
and
Thank you.
take it easy.
Yeah, I wonder if the
Thanks.
baby is born during dun season. What is
I
that?
know you just got me worried about that.
But it
What
sounds
is
like
the
it's due
due
right
date?
before.
Yeah, the
It's due
21st?
before. It's due before. But you never know. So
It's
we'll
all
work with whatever happens.
it's all good. It just means you have to, keep your awareness.
Yeah,
That's all. But you're doing it anyway. So
totally.
Yeah. Well, great, everyone. Thank you very much for staying through this, and we'll have a very happy holiday season,
good winter
Christmas. I'm
solstice day.
going on vacation next week, so I'll be working on my tan.
Oh,
And
where?
down in the Caribbean,
Ooh,
we're
nice.
really going for it. Go snorkeling, maybe even scuba diving. And so have a happy Christmas and New Year's and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and winter solstice and all that fun stuff. And see you all next year.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Take care.